welcome back to F1 Analyzes. This is the second episode. Very excited. Today I have my lovely friend Amanda Preston joining us to talk about Ferrari.
Hey guys, I'm really excited to be here.
Okay, so the first thing that I want to start off with is I have a few questions that I'm going to ask every one of my guests that I have on. Just as a little get to know you.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, so the first thing is, how long have you been watching F1?
I mostly only watch it with Megan. I'm gonna be so honest. But I did watch the Monaco Grand Prix. Well, I didn't watch the whole thing, but I watched highlights. And I did research.
Yeah.
Because I was so excited.
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
I wouldn't say it's one of my interests, but because it's important to you, it is also important to me because of that.
Oh, I'm gonna cry. That's so sweet.
No, it's true. It's the truth.
How did you get into F1?
So sometimes when we would have some downtime in theater, which was often, we would watch the Ferrari YouTube videos of
C-squared.
Leclerc and Sainz, them doing little challenges, cooking challenges.
Yeah, the cooking was the best.
Oh, he's breaking the eggs. Mates, you are doing so many mistakes. Yes.
Who is your favorite team?
Ferrari, if you couldn't tell.
Let's go. Wearing red for my support today. And who is your favorite driver?
Charles Leclerc.
Let's go. That's also my favorite driver. You see the influence that I have on my friends. Who is your least favorite team?
Probably Red Bull.
Okay. I feel like a lot of people dislike Red Bull now because they're doing so well.
Right, but it's not like I hate them or anything like that.
Right.
It's not like the Steelers. Like, I hate the Steelers. But this is not like that. I don't, wish them all the best. Except for...
You don't wish the Steelers the best?
No.
Least favorite driver?
I don't know if I really have a least favorite.
That's fair. You just watched the first episode of the podcast.
I did, yes.
Are there any questions that you still have that, weren't answered, or any, clarification that you want? But you were confused what a pit lane was.
I was.
So, I can explain that. A pit lane is basically where the drivers go to make their pit stops. So there's, a specific lane so that it's not, on the track, so no one gets injured. So they have, the garages of all the different teams, and then the cars will go into the pit lane, and they have to go a certain speed in the pit lane, and then they'll go into their designated garage area, and they'll make a pit stop. Well, then the pit crew comes out, changes tires, and then they're able to keep going on the race.
This wasn't really a question that I had based off of the first episode, but when I was watching the race today, I was confused as to what a red flag was.
Oh, yes. Okay, so a red flag is basically they stop driving. A red flag is typically there's a crash so bad that they feel it's unsafe to continue the race because they have to clear the debris and stuff like that. And once you have a red flag, they have a standing start. So instead of having a safety car go out in front of the cars and then the safety car goes in and the cars keep going, they basically start from the lights again.
It is F1000 and it's lights out and away we go.
We watched the Monaco Grand Prix. That was this past weekend, and it was a very exciting race. I watched it while I was hiking. I actually had pretty good cell reception.
That's impressive.
It was nice. Yeah, it was. I was really happy. I was going to be really sad if I couldn't watch
well, because you never know around these parts.
Yeah. We were going on the White Trail, and there was a notice posted on the bulletin board, and it was watch out, there have been rattlesnake sightings in the past week. And I was I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this.
In Maryland?
Yeah. We have timber rattlesnakes.
I did not know that.
Yeah, watch out. You want to take us through your perspective of Perez's
Sure.
crash?
My very first note was Perez out early because of big crash.
He was crushed.
It was really bad.
It was so bad.
His car was destroyed.
I was scared. In 2021 in Silverstone, the Silverstone circuit, Zhou Guanyu had like a really bad crash. And what happened with that was basically like, there was a smaller crash that happened up front and they called a yellow flag.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was like a red flag, but they weren't showing why. So I was sitting there like, I don't understand, like, that was, like, barely a crash at all, what happened?
Right.
And then they panned to Zhou, who's, like, flipped over in the barriers, and I was like, oh my god. So, basically the same thing happened this time, where Sainz went off the track,
Right.
and they had a yellow flag,
Mm-hmm.
and then there was a red flag, but they weren't showing why, and I was like, oh god, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
And then they showed Perez's car, like, completely torn apart.
Wrecked.
Basically, I like to call it the torso.
Mm.
Basically the torso of the car. And I was really scared, but everyone was fine, which was good.
Thankfully.
Yeah, but the Haas's just sandwiched him.
But yeah, but I wanted to talk about this because at first I was confused why, because the announcers said when Carlos drove off the track that he was out.
Mm-hmm.
And then since I was watching the highlights, it skipped to them starting again at the third lap, and he was in again, and I was like, why is that? So, like, in that sense, did he kind of luck out because of the red flag? Because
Absolutely.
he would not have been able...
100%. He would have basically been at the back of the grid had that red flag not happened. So he was then able to start in his qualifying position, which was third. I mean, it was a huge day for Ferrari.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing was Charles Leclerc won Monaco.
He's never done before, right?
He has never done before. That's
it's called the Monaco Curse.
Yes, the Monaco Curse. The Monaco Curse was basically because Charles never won. So he's from Monaco, and he's never won in his hometown. And he's almost won in his hometown. But there have been instances where, like, I don't remember what year it was. I want to say 2022. Like, he was gonna win, but then Ferrari messed up their strategy and basically, like, fucked him over.
And box now, box for hard. Stay out. Tire position 5.
And he wasn't able to then win that race. Mm-hmm. Or, like, he's, like, crashed there. Like, he's crashed in, like, qualifying in the actual race. It's just been, like, bad luck for him in Monaco. He did it. He won.
Yeah,
he broke the Monaco curse.
He was stoked. Him celebrating was so funny. He was like, yeah!
Yes!
Yes! I felt like I was there.
Yeah, he was on the top of the podium. You were on the top of the mountain.
We're basically the same person.
Yes. The parallels were crazy. So the next thing I said was that Alpine bumped into each other. Their cars collided, and then the one of them was out because of that, I think.
Yeah, so what was interesting about the start of this race is because, like, Alpine collided into each other, and then you had the two Haas's, like, having their sort of incident.
Yes.
But it's always interesting having teammates crashing into each other, because then you have, especially in Haas's case, you have not just one car, but both cars out.
Right.
Like, that's out of so many points.
Mm-hmm.
It's
almost like a self-sabotage type of moment.
Yes.
But then it's also, like, you understand because they're each competing... The constructors versus the, what's the other one called?
Drivers.
The drivers. So it's like they're competing against each other, but also with each other.
Yeah. Yes.
Which is really interesting.
It's so interesting. I love looking into the, like, psychology of it, which I know you would like.
Oh, love. I'm a psychology major. Yeah. Did Leclerc remain in first for the entire race?
He did.
That seems very impressive. Does that happen often?
I mean, it depends. If it's, like, Max Verstappen, yes.
That makes sense.
But with this circuit, yes. Because Monaco is the narrowest circuit, like, on the calendar. So there's barely any room for overtaking.
Mm-hmm.
That's why qualifying is so important for Monaco. Because wherever you qualify is practically where you're going to finish the race. Unless there's things like crashes.
Yes.
So that was the Monaco race.
Yes.
Very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't watch it, then you should watch the next race, which is in 2 weeks, the 9th of June in Montreal. Yeah, that's a good one. Canada's a good circuit. Now we're going to get into the history of Ferrari. So we watched a video on that to kind of refresh ourselves. We didn't know before.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I personally, not to speak for you, but I had no idea, no clue.
I knew a little bit, but I mean, there were some things that I didn't. So I also did watch the Ferrari movie that came out, which wasn't about F1, but it had like some of the history of F1. Also, you should watch that.
What is it called?
Ferrari.
Oh.
Yeah.
I saw Ford versus Ferrari, but that's different.
That is different. That was also a good movie.
That was really good.
If you want a good
enjoyed.
F1 movie, I would watch Rush. That's about Niki Lauda, who we're going to talk about later anyway. Ferrari started in 1929 as a racing team, and it was founded by Enzo Ferrari.
Which is kind of crazy just thinking about it now, because wasn't that right after the Great Depression?
Yes.
How did he have any money at all to build a car?
That's actually a great question. I think what they had said, right, was that Alfa Romeo was kind of backing him.
Okay.
So I think he had some funding from that. But no, that is a great point. Of like, that was a weird time to start it.
Yeah.
He was the one driving,
Yes,
too.
he was the first driver. Not for F1, but for the Grand Prix that they were doing.
Yeah. Because they did Grand Prix before F1 was like a thing. Like, they just had Grand Prix. Like,
I just thought it was really impressive that he started the company and was the main driver.
Yeah.
Like,
that's like ambitious.
That's very impressive. And then he remained like the head of it for a really long time.
Oh, yeah. Ferrari also was started for racing. Like, you have a lot of teams in F1 who sell cars, who manufacture and sell cars, right? Like Mercedes and McLaren, things like that. So basically, they are racing to get recognition to then be able to sell cars. Ferrari is the opposite. Ferrari is selling normal cars, like, for people to get funding to be able to race.
That is really interesting.
Yeah, so they're, like, unique in that way, and that's why they're so passionate about racing.
Oh, yeah.
Ferrari makes their own engines as well, which is not something that every team does. Like, Red Bull gets their engines from Honda, which they won't soon, though. I think Honda's changing. I don't know who they're going to get their engines from. I want to say Ford, but that could be wrong. That statement. Ferrari makes their own engines. That's pretty cool.
Pretty epic.
They also, I think, supply engines to other teams.
Oh.
I think they did supply engines to Alfa Romeo when Alfa Romeo was a team. Alfa Romeo is now what is Kick Sauber.
And I didn't know what either of those were. Why would they supply engines for other teams? Like, do they purposely give them worse engines?
That's interesting. I don't think so.
Okay.
I think because they want their engines to do well.
Right.
And that would be, I feel like, illegal. They're doing it to be able to get funding and money.
Everything's about funding.
And not only that, but then recognition, where if some other team is like, yeah, we have a Ferrari engine, then people are going to be like, oh, Ferrari is good.
Right.
That's the engine that you're using.
And then also maybe they're just so confident in the other aspects of their cars that they know that they can do better even if they're using the same engine as a different
Yeah, I think that is the
team.
hope. And if they're supplying, like, engines to other teams, then... Oh, yeah, so they supplied engines to Alfa Romeo, which is now Kick Sauber, and Haas has used Ferrari engines exclusively since joining F1.
Wow.
But it's interesting, the, like, dynamics of that, of, like, who is getting supplies from other people.
Right.
Inner workings of how they're making the cars in the first place. That stuff.
That doesn't, they don't really go into that. I mean, if you do further research, and did they go into that on Drive to Survive a little bit?
They do a little bit, yes, but, like, not to the extent that I sort of feel like they should sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to sit down with these people and talk to them and be like, so why are you doing this? Like, where are you getting your stuff from?
Yeah.
Ferrari is, I mean, they've been around since the very first F1.
And they're the only team that is currently still in F1.
Ferrari has 246 wins, which is the most out of any F1 team. And they have 16 Constructors' Championship wins and 15 Drivers' Championship wins. You can get a Constructors' Championship win, but then not the Drivers' Championship win. Like, that happened in 2021 with Mercedes got the Constructors' Championship win, but Max Verstappen won the Drivers' Championship. Ferrari's first F1 driver was Alberto Ascari. I don't know shit about that guy. Just in general. Is that your mom?
Yep, sorry.
Yeah.
Ready to go to dinner whenever everyone else is.
Where are you guys going?
A seafood place? What I'm gonna get. I have my order picked out.
Of course
as I do. So, yeah, it's like a...
Because it would take a million hours. If
Yeah.
It was just, yeah.
Well, I have to still decide if I want mac and cheese or curly fries as my side.
Oh, mac and cheese.
Okay, decided.
Yes.
Alright.
What's the rest of your order?
It's like a shrimp salad, but also crab cake sandwich.
Wait, what?
Like it's a crab cake sandwich, but then it has like shrimp salad on top, I think. You could do like an extended cut for the real fans. The true fans that want all the juicy deets.
Ooh. All my mom's friends. Hey, guys. Ferrari's had a lot. I can see you.
Horse blinders.
Ferrari's had a lot of different huge name drivers throughout their time. Like huge names, because they've been around so long. So they have, and they've been, not only have they been around so long, they've been super successful. So they've had a bunch of incredible drivers to have driven for them. One of them being Niki Lauda.
Winning and losing. So I'd like to dedicate this award to the losers. Because I tell you from my own experience, winning is one thing, but out of losing, I always learn more about the future.
You have no idea who that is.
Excited to learn though.
So Niki Lauda was a driver in the 70s. He passed away relatively recently. The big thing about Niki Lauda is, well, he's won the drivers and constructors championships with Ferrari. But the big thing is in 1976, while he was driving for Ferrari, he had this huge accident where it was his car, his Ferrari's slipped off the track, crashed into a wall, and lit on fire. And he was basically trapped in the car. So he was badly injured. He had to have a whole face reconstruction type thing.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He was only in the hospital for 2 races. So he only missed 2 races. And then he went back to the track. And he should not have been racing.
Definitely wasn't cleared at all.
But he still put that helmet back on, bleeding, went to race. Unfortunately, it was pouring rain. And after only 2 laps, Niki Lauda pulled the car over and he retired the car. To a lot of people, a very cowardly thing to do. But I think that it was a very brave thing to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they should not have been racing in that weather at all. And still, even today, they have so many races where I'm they should not be racing in this. This is actually a tsunami.
That just kind of brings up how many game time decisions drivers have to make.
Yeah.
Within fractions of seconds.
Yeah, and
that could cost them their lives.
Every single time they get into that car, they know it can be the last time that they're in it.
Yeah, last episode you talked about the risk. Just adds to how crazy the sport is.
Everyone should go and watch the movie Rush. It's a fantastic movie. It's about Niki Lauda and James Hunt's rivalry, and it covers all this that happened with his crash and then what happened afterwards. That was one of the first F1 things that I ever watched. My brother had it on upstairs, and I just walked in. Someone else. This is a dark episode.
A little bit.
Who is Michael Schumacher?
And I believe another part of the recipe is the great relationship we have within the team, the friendship I do have with most of the people in the team. It's so close. I mean, I come here and I feel like home.
So Michael Schumacher is, I mean, one of the greatest drivers of all time. He was incredible. He is tied with Lewis Hamilton for having the most amount of championships. He has 7. Insane. He has 5 consecutively with Ferrari.
Which I would argue is even more insane.
Yes, very insane. In the 2000s. So 2000 until 2004, he has those 5 consecutive wins. Mm-hmm. He was with Ferrari, like, he was what made so many people who, like, drive now, or, like, who get into driving now, like, want to be in the Ferrari car.
Very inspirational.
Yeah, he's super inspirational. Like, watching him growing up is, like, being like, that's who I want to be. Like, I want to be driving in that red car, like Michael Schumacher. 2013, he was driving with Mercedes, and he got into a skiing accident. He flew forward on the skis, and he hit his head, and he went into a coma for 6 months. He's out of the coma now, but the public doesn't really know much about his health. They know that he's alive. And that's about it.
It also makes you think, like, if he hadn't gotten into that accident, you know, he would have just continued on.
Yeah.
And we'll never know, you know, what he could have done. Which, again, goes back to the game time decisions. I know that this accident didn't happen while racing, but just to go back to that kind of thing of, like, you never know.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Really.
I could never.
Jules Bianchi.
Another death.
Jules never drove for Ferrari. In 2013, he joined F1 for the Marussia team. And the Marussia team used Ferrari engines. And Haas has inherited their, like, factory and stuff since they joined F1. So Marussia has kind of formed into, like transferred into the Haas team, which is what it is now. Jules was a member of the Ferrari Driver Academy. And it was, like, very well known that he was probably going to end up at Ferrari. He was a fantastic driver. He was winning a bunch.
Prodigy of sorts.
Yes, he really was. And then in 2014, during the Japanese Grand Prix, it was raining, and Jules hit the barriers and then was taken to the hospital for head injuries. He was in a coma. And then he remained in a coma until he passed away in 2015.
Wow.
So, it's a very sad story, unfortunately. But it has... laugh in uncomfortable situations.
Me as well.
That's why we work so well together.
Indeed.
Jules' death has led to a huge safety element in F1, which is the halo. In 2018, the halo was introduced into F1, and what it is basically titanium. I've looked it up since last time. It's titanium strip that goes around the driver's head, and there are 3, like, spikes to keep it in place. And it also can withstand up to 12 tons of vertical force. Wow. So it's basically protecting the driver's heads from crashes and things like that happen. And it was because of Jules' accident that they started researching and developing this thing. And the halos faced a lot of criticism because people thought that it was unnecessary weight that was added to the car, but it saved so many lives. So many lives.
The payoff is worth it.
I really like the halo. Because it has saved so many drivers. Like, I was talking about Joe's crash earlier. It saved him. I talked about Max Verstappen running over Lewis Hamilton's head in the last episode. That saved Lewis Hamilton's life, the Halo.
Which is crazy, even just to think, like, what if we didn't have Lewis Hamilton anymore, you know?
Exactly.
It's the reverse scenario from before.
Exactly. The first ever life that the Halo saved was Charles Leclerc.
Wow.
In Spa in 2018. Jules Bianchi is Charles Leclerc's godfather.
Wow. So he's basically saved his life.
Yeah. Like,
I see the tears. I see the tears
like,
forming.
I can't do it. Like, oh, yeah. Charles Leclerc is a current Ferrari driver. And Charles wanted to join Ferrari really badly because he basically wanted to continue Jules' legacy. Because they all knew that he was going to end up at Ferrari. So Charles has taken on this sort of pressure to then do that and be with Ferrari. Charles joined F1 in 2018 with Alfa Romeo. Now Sauber. Again, I just want to make that clear. 2019, at 21 years old, he joined Ferrari. And he's been with them since. I believe he's the youngest ever driver to join Ferrari. And he's basically a prodigy. He's great. And then he obviously broke the Monaco curse this past weekend. So,
do you think that he would ever go to a different team? Or because of Jules, do you think he's going to try to stick with Ferrari as long as possible?
I don't know.
Right.
I think he wants to win with Ferrari. You know, if he's gonna win, I think he wants it to be with Ferrari. I don't know if he would go anywhere else. I can't picture him anywhere else.
That is also like a surprisingly selfless thing for him to do as a driver. I'm not saying that he is selfish in any way, but if you are competing in F1, you have to be a little bit selfish.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so it's just interesting. I mean, it makes total sense because of the backstory.
Yeah.
But it is definitely interesting that he could be possibly inhibiting his career by doing that.
Yeah. He also does well there. He's a super good driver. This is kind of a crazy statement, but I do think that he is who has a chance of taking down Max Verstappen.
I would agree. From my limited knowledge, they seem to be neck and neck in a lot of different scenarios.
Max and Charles have been, like, driving together since they were kids. Like, there's interviews of Max Verstappen being like, yeah, I always knew, like, if I was going to make it into F1, then Charles would too.
Aww.
There's, like, one really, like, I don't know if you've ever seen this, like, one clip from when they were little, Max and Charles, where they got into, like, some, like the crash or something, and they, like, walk off, and someone, like, goes up to Max, and it's like, what happened? Like, some reporter, and Max is like, oh, like, yeah, I don't know, he like, drove into me, and whatever, and then this one goes up to Charles, and he's like, what happened? And Charles is like, I don't know, just an incident.
I love his accent. I'm obsessed with his accent. Okay, Oreos.
What happened with Max? Nothing, just an incident on the race. Can I mean,
To get the reporter laughing too. Nothing, just an incident. His hair is so Justin Bieber. I'm obsessed.
It's so good.
Definitely.
Yeah. So that is the backstory of Jules the Halo and Charles Leclerc, and why Charles.
And I had no idea.
Yeah, so
just makes me like him even more.
Yeah. He's great. There is a good Drive to Survive episode about that as well. Shout out Drive to Survive. I know a lot of people hate it, and I totally get that. But I think it's brought a lot of viewership to the sport. And I think it's a good start, you know?
Why do people hate it?
Because they kind of dramatize things.
Oh.
They'll kind of
that's just TV, I feel like.
No.
But yeah, I understand.
Yeah. The other driver for Ferrari right now is Carlos Sainz.
I also love him. He is my second favorite.
You really are just all Ferrari.
I am.
Okay. Are you Italian?
No, but I wish I was.
You're Greek, right?
I am. I'm a proud Greek woman. I wish there was a Greek driver. That'd be so epic.
Yeah, I don't think there is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay. I forgive you.
Who is Carlos Sainz?
Who is he?
Who is
I
he?
know who he is.
Do you want to say
But
who he
do
is?
all of you? He is... So we talked about Charles Leclerc.
Yes.
He is the other driver for Ferrari.
Yes.
Right now.
Correct. He's, I don't know if I would go so far to say that he's their second driver. I think he's, like, kind of supposed to be, because they are getting rid of him, because they're having someone else take over next year. But
that doesn't mean that he isn't extremely talented.
Exactly. He won a race this year. He won, I'm not gonna remember. The third race. I don't remember where it was. I want to say Singapore, but I think that's wrong.
Should I look it up?
I think it's Melbourne. And he joined F1 in 2015 at the age of 20 for Toro Rosso, now called Visa Red Bull Cash App.
Right? That name is crazy to me.
Me too.
Cash App gets me.
Cash App gets me every time. That at the beginning of the year, I was like, I'm just gonna call them Cash App. I haven't once called them that.
Because, like, how can you take that seriously?
You can't. Go for Toro Rosso with Max Verstappen as his teammate in 2015, and he got the nickname Chili.
Is that culturally insensitive?
That's
Maybe.
for you to decide.
We didn't make it up, though, so.
We didn't make it up. And he seems to embrace it. He gave Charles a chili stuffed animal.
Cute.
At the beginning of this year, in his words, to remember him when they're no longer teammates.
Oh.
Then he moved to Renault, and he drove for Renault. Renault is now Alpine. I drove for them for a little bit, and then he drove for McLaren. And while he was at McLaren, he drove with Fernando Alonso, who was kind of his hero growing up. So that was a fun, rivalry. And then he joined Ferrari in 2021. And at the beginning of this year, it was announced that Lewis Hamilton will be joining Ferrari for the 2025 season. And that means that since Charles has already signed to stay at Ferrari, and now Lewis Hamilton will be at Ferrari, that leaves Carlos without a place to go. So the question now is, where is Carlos going to end up?
Mm-hmm.
And the real answer is no one knows, because we aren't the ones making the deals. I personally would like him to end up at Red Bull. I think that would be fun. And I've been saying that since the beginning of the season, that I think he'll end up there. I think that's the best bet for him, but I don't know if that will end up happening or not. Because the other options are like Haas. And I think that he's, no offense to Haas, I think that he's better than that.
Yeah, I agree.
do. Lewis Hamilton joining Ferrari. Dude, I woke up on February 1st and I just about lost it.
You were stoked, right?
No? I felt a lot of emotions all at once because I'm a Mercedes fan. That's my number one team.
Yes.
And honestly, I didn't want Lewis to stay at Mercedes. He wasn't doing the best. And I thought that it was time to bring in some new people.
Mm-hmm.
But then it was announced that he was leaving. And I was like, wait, but who's gonna take over? So I didn't know how to feel. And then it was announced that he was joining Ferrari, and then I didn't know how to feel even more, because then I was like, well, where's Carlos gonna go?
Right.
But Lewis Hamilton joining Ferrari was a huge shock. Because because he's been with Mercedes since 2013, I want to say. You're not really going to have the answer on this. I'm just curious your take, like, of who you think is going to be their, like, lead driver then next year.
Mercedes?
No, Ferrari.
We're definitely going to have to see how it plays out.
Yeah.
I think from my limited knowledge, I would say it would probably seem more likely that Char would be number one.
Ferrari is a little bit more low-key with that in general, I think. At least the past few years they have been. So they might just, like, let them fight a little bit to see.
Yeah. No, that is definitely, like, a tough situation to put yourself in, like,
yeah,
up against one of the top competitors.
And the question, too, is, like, why is Lewis moving? Like, what's caused him to move, you know? And to Ferrari, of all places. I like describing it as, like, when Taylor Swift moved from country to pop. Like, that is what it feels like.
Like, in a few years, we'll be like, oh, like, of course it made sense. But then, like,
Maybe.
Or
Or you might
we'll
have,
be
like, a...
oh, not the right choice.
Yeah.
Only time will tell?
Only time will tell. I like to think that, so Ferrari's current team principal is Fred Vasseur, and he is an icon. He's this short little man who keeps getting, like, these huge names to sign to Ferrari. And I want to know what is going on. He's so cryptic in interviews. He doesn't say too much. And he talks really slowly. And I just want to know what's going on in his head. I want to know what he is telling these people to get them to join the team.
Right. Yeah, what is that large pull factor?
Right. Because he's gotten Lewis Hamilton. That's a huge one. He's signed 2 of Mercedes' engineers. That probably has a little bit to do with Lewis going as well. One of the biggest engineers in Formula One, his name is Adrian Newey. And he works at Red Bull. And earlier this year, it was announced that he's leaving Red Bull, the F1 team. He's working on their hypercar now, which is something for the World Endurance Championship, most likely. There is a lot of speculation that he's going to go to Ferrari. And so then my question is, what is Fred saying to them?
Right.
What is he doing? If Adrian Newey goes to Ferrari, if he really does do that, I think that it will be the downfall of Red Bull. Like, that will be the last stepping stone. Because it's one thing if you lose your head engineer, right? That's a huge deal in itself. It's another thing if you lose your head engineer and then they join your rival team. A little fun fact, the fans of Ferrari have their own special name. And that's the Tifosi. And Tifosi is Italian for superfan. So, they are, like, huge fans of F1. Like, they really are. You know, like, if you're a driver for Ferrari and you have the support of the Tifosi, like, you have them backing you. But if you're not doing well, they're gonna destroy you. Do you have anything else to say about any of this, or Ferrari, or F1 in general?
I guess it's just exciting, you know? You really have zero clue what's gonna happen, like, and I think that Hamilton moving to Ferrari is, like, such a good example of that, where you really just, like...
You wake up one morning and your world has changed.
Anything could happen, like, everything that you think, like, everything that we said could end up being wrong, or everything we said could end up being right. Like, and we have no clue.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool.
Has this made you want to watch F1 more?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It definitely reinforced my backing of Ferrari. Definitely, yeah, I don't know. I was wondering, like, if any of my opinions on drivers or teams would shift because of this, and I feel like
they've just gotten stronger.
Yeah.
I gave you the backstory of Schell.
I mean, how could you not, you know?
I know.
It's just such a, like...
Yeah.
Do you think there, like, when, if ever, is there going to be a female driver in F1?
So there has been...
Oh, right, you
a female driver. There's been one.
And she scored points.
She did score points. I like to keep pointing that out.
As she should.
Yes. There's been female test drivers for F1. No, because not only do you have the 2 drivers in the cars, but then you also have, like, a reserve driver. I honestly think we're moving further and further away from that possibility because of the introduction of F1 Academy. I think that they're going to sort of push them to do
a league of their own.
Yeah. Instead of kind of incorporating them into F1 as a whole.
Interesting.
Yeah, and it's weird too because like there are female drivers in like F3 and like things like that. So, you know, it's just interesting that they never make it into F1. It's a very male-heavy sport. You only have 20 drivers. It makes it that much harder. But I don't think that it's impossible. It's happened time and time again.
Yeah.
What was that
You hear
noise?
that?
Yeah.
It's probably tornado warning. No, it's not us.
Maybe we're about to be tornadoed.
That could be fun.
We are in the basement.
Podcast
so.
in a tornado. Brought to you from...
No one will ever see this.